It's Thursday, and I've got 3 orders going out for a total of $44.30. You know, I've been dealing with this nutcase buyer. I mentioned that I did leave them a false positive feedback, even though I know that is against eBay terms of service or whatever. You know, the fact that eBay will not remove feedback for a seller because they say it's the buyer's experience, but they don't want the seller to be able to convey their experience with these nutcase buyers. And that was the only recourse that I had. I did not know if this buyer was regularly checking their feedback or not, but apparently they were, because this is the message that I got yesterday. I paid you within 5 days of purchase, and yes, your box was too big. Had newspaper in it, item was not protected, box was partially opened and crushed on arrival due to this horrible packing. Plus, your negative comment with a positive is unjust, uncalled for, and is in violation of eBay's feedback policy. I have reported this to eBay. Again, the buyer got their item quickly and in undamaged condition, but for whatever reason, they're fixated on this box that was obviously crushed by USPS, maybe partially opened, and in their opinion, the box was too big, and it wasn't. It was slightly bigger than the item that was in it. So I responded with this message. Yes, you did pay within 5 days, but you originally wanted 9 days to pay, and I agreed to that, just trying to be nice. As was already said, the package was sent out in undamaged condition, so if it was crushed or opened, it was due to USPS mishandling it, but somehow you would like to blame me for what they did. The bottom line is, the item arrived quickly and undamaged, but for some reason you care more about the box that USPS crushed than the item you purchased. I should have known this transaction would go this way after your message begging to give you 9 days to pay and giving me instructions on how to cater to your inability to pay in a timely manner. Of course you reported the feedback. You have been nothing but trouble from the very beginning. As I said, buyers like you make selling on eBay miserable. Yes, I know there was a couple misspellings in there because I was a bit irritated at this buyer and I was typing kind of fast and I didn't proofread it. So they responded with one more message. My feedback is private and you are now harassing me. I am not trouble. You are. Yes, you have been reported. It almost sounds like this buyer has the mentality of a child with that last message, and the fact that they are completely, in my opinion, unreasonable when they got their item in good condition and are really focused on the box. I did call eBay only because I wanted a record of me calling in and telling them what was going on, especially since this buyer is saying I'm harassing them when all I did was respond to messages that they initiated. And as I figured, eBay told me to not respond to any more of their messages and just block that buyer. The rep also told me to go and submit a feedback revision or whatever. I've never did one. I saw when I went to it that had 5. I didn't actually do it, but the rep did say to go and try to have that feedback removed and they would review it or whatever. In that last message, the buyer said that their feedback was private, which I'm not really sure why that's even relevant here. But I never made any reference to the fact that their feedback was private. But I do know when I went to look at it after all this began that I couldn't see their feedback. So when I went to feedback left for others on my account, I saw that eBay did remove the feedback that I left. The first item that sold is this book, The First Days of School, and this sold for $5.19 plus shipping. It came from the bin store, and I'm almost positive this was a 50-cent book. The next item that sold is another book. It's a cookbook. It's a Bell's Best. This came from the estate sale where me and Kim paid $50 for just a huge amount of stuff. So I don't have hardly anything into this book, and it sold for $29.56. The last item that sold is a pack of replacement HEPA filters for a Winix air purifier, and these sold for $9.55 plus shipping. These came from the bin store, and I'm almost positive I've only got $1 into these. It's Friday. I've got 5 orders going out today for a total of $61.02. The first order is a 3-pack of genuine Kenmore refrigerator air filters. These sold for $6.94 plus shipping, and I've got 50 cents into each pack of these, so I've got a total of $1.50 into all these. Now, these are on sale right now. Typically, I was getting more for these. Probably a little over a year ago, I was selling a lot of these things. I had bought an absolute ton of them from the bin store, and of course, that's where these came from. But they were selling really good at around $10 for a 3-pack of them. Now, I just very sporadically sell the ones I have left. I don't have too many left. I think I probably got maybe 12 or 15 left, but they do still sell. They just sell very slow, and these didn't sell for much because, like I said, they are on sale, which I've got a 25% off sale going on right now in my store. The next item is a book, JSON at Work. It's some kind of data integration book or something. This came from the bin store. It was either 50 cents or $1, and it sold for $13.92 plus shipping. Next is a soft inflatable dog cone collar, size extra large, and it did come from the bin store. It was either $1 or $2. Really cool. It's not Superman, but it kind of has like a Superman look to it, and it sold for $9.55, and I would have paid $1 or maybe $2 for this. Next, I sold a vintage swing away wall mount can opener in, well, that's kind of a gold front, but most of it is a pea green, very, very vintagey. And this came from an estate sale in a $5 filler bag. So I don't have much into this, and it sold for $15.66 plus shipping. It does not have the bracket that you mount like to the wall, and then there's a pin that goes through here to make it swing away. And I did note that in the title. I actually have a different brand of this type of can opener in my inventory right now, and it doesn't have the bracket either. So I find these occasionally, I just never find the brackets that go to them. The last item is a vintage trucker's cap. It's got a Wisner or Weisner minnow hatchery patch on the front. The cap is a K Products brand. It's in really good shape considering its age. The only real issue with it is that there is no foam left on the inside. I did make a note of that in the description and the title. This came from a $5 filler bag at an estate sale. I bought a whole bunch of caps. I stuffed as many caps as I could into that bag. So I don't have very much into it, and it sold for $14.95 plus shipping. So this has really been kind of a terrible week for eBay sales. So hopefully things will pick up a little bit this weekend, because I know last weekend my sales were terrible. I had a question from CM Retro Gaming, who's been a long time viewer and supporter of the channel, and I just want to say I really appreciate not only him but everyone who takes the time to watch my videos. So I thought I would answer his question on the video. He asked, what do I do with dead inventory, how long I leave items that are not selling listed, and if I do delist them, what do I do with them? To answer that question, I kind of need to preface it with something else. I've talked some in the past about doing nuclear resets on my store. The nuclear reset is when you end every item in your store and you do a sell similar. I've tried doing the nuclear reset at different frequencies. At one point, I was trying it once per week. Then I was trying it about every 10 days, and then twice a month, and then once a month. And I definitely think that doing it once every 7 to 10 days is a little too much. So as of now, I'm typically doing it about once per month. I've heard arguments, and I think they're very valid arguments from both sides about the nuclear reset. Let's say you have 1,000 items in your store, and you end all those 1,000 items, and you sell similar 1,000 items. To eBay, it looks like you just listed 1,000 brand new items. And that's going to give you a boost in the algorithm. The boost is going to be temporary. And over the next few days, it's going to taper off and you're going to be back where you were to begin with. I've also heard an argument that when you do a nuclear reset and you completely end all the items and sell similar, it could hurt you because a lot of buyers find your items on Google. And I know from personal experience, if I do a nuclear reset and just say an hour later or even a couple days later, I go and Google items specifically that I have for sale in my eBay store, it's going to bring me to the old listing, which is now a dead listing. So I do think there is some validity to that point. But I've been watching for how long it takes for my inventory to be re-indexed by Google. And typically, all the items in my store are re-indexed and available to be found on a Google search within 4 to 5 days. So on one hand, you're gaining a big boost in the algorithm, but you're losing those people who may look for something on Google and come across a dead listing in your store. And if any potential buyers have any of your items in their cart, which probably some of them will, those items are going to disappear out of their cart. With all that said, I still personally believe that doing a end and sell similar of my entire store and getting that boost in sales is more advantageous than items sitting in a buyer's cart that they haven't bought and losing a few days of searchability on Google. Because I don't think any of us can say that we are definitively right. I'm only basing what I'm telling you out of my own personal experience. And every time that I do a complete reset on my store, I get a boost in sales. But you can only do it to a point. If you're trying to do it 2-3 times a week, it loses something. I don't know what it is, so that's why I won't do it more than twice per month. Now, there's a reason why I went through all that to be able to answer CM Retro Gaming's question. He asked about these items that have been sitting and not selling, and what do I do with them? Well, when I do a complete reset on my store, those items that have been sitting for a year and a half, 2 years, some of them begin to sell. Now, if I was never doing an end and sell similar on my store, things may be different. But I don't think there's been one time that I've done a complete reset and didn't sell at least a few of the items that have been sitting for well over a year in my store. So to really answer his question, I don't do anything with the items. And the reason is because, for one, I do the complete store resets, and that helps sell some of the older items. Number two, most of the items that I have that are a year to 2 years old are very small and they don't take up much room. And I know if you've been watching the channel for any length of time, you've heard me talk about that I am just about slap out of space, and that's true. But really what I'm talking about is shelf space and bin space. Inside the bins that I have, there is still a fair amount of room, and that's where I'm putting a lot of these death pile items and new inventory that I bring in. But for the most part, all the items that I have that are a year and a half to 2 years old, which is just about the amount of time I've been selling on eBay, are very small items and they don't take up much room. So I don't really feel the need to go through and do a whole inventory and pull those items out, because I firmly believe that there's not much that you can list on eBay that's not going to sell eventually. Obviously, we don't want to list things that are going to take 5 or 6 years to sell. That's not what I'm saying. But I really don't have a whole lot of items that have been listed for 2 years and haven't sold. I do have a few, and I was much less discriminating back when I was kind of just ramping things up. But for the most part, I don't have a lot of inventory left, and I was making some pretty bad buys in the beginning. Of course, some of you may argue I still make bad buys, but that's a discussion for another day. But really, I don't do anything with my inventory. I just wait for it to sell. On a related note, I also have a lot of death pile from probably a year and a half ago. And as I'm pulling from that death pile, I do run across items that I just don't want to spend the time to list because I have better things to list now. If it's an item that I think someone that I know may want, I will put it to the side. If not, I typically box the other stuff up and I donate it to a local thrift store. I do not donate to Goodwill because, well, I have a lot of issues with Goodwill and their practices and their pricing. But I do donate it to a local church-based thrift store that, well, I feel better about donating things here, although they've kind of taken the Goodwill approach on their pricing. But unlike Goodwill, it's not a for-profit thrift store. The money actually benefits the church. As a matter of fact, I just went through my last 100 items that I sold. And 9 out of those 100 items, a full 9% of what I sold, were items that were between 1 and 2 years old. If I had larger items that were really taking up a lot of space that I needed to use for more profitable items, it may be a different story. But luckily, the majority of items that I sell are small. Today is, well, it's technically Sunday, but it's almost Monday. It's about 11:28 p.m. when most normal people should be sleeping. But I don't know if I've ever mentioned it, but I have an absolutely horrible sleep schedule. And I've been having it for a lot of years. I mean, probably the last, I don't know, it's been really bad probably the last 12 years or so. When I was still married, a lot of times my bad ex-wife would be getting up for work. She would usually get up for work between 5:30 and 6. And sometimes I would still be up. And a lot of times I would only have been sleeping for like, an hour or two at the most. And not sleeping properly has a big effect on just my life in general. So I'm not going to make this video about my poor sleeping habits. But I was just trying to explain why I'm here at now almost 11:30 doing this video. Well, that's part of the reason. I only got a few hours of sleep last night, and I went to estate sales today. Went to 3 estate sales. That's all they had. Picked up some really good, well, okay, picking up good stuff, bad stuff, whatever, that's very subjective. In my opinion, I picked up some pretty decent stuff. After estate sales, I had to work this afternoon for a little while. I came home, I cooked something to eat, I ate, and like an old man, I fell asleep in my recliner watching, I was watching YouTube. Some reselling stuff, some non-reselling stuff, but I fell asleep. I woke up around 10 o'clock. I had to clean the kitchen. I also had to bring in a lot of stuff that I picked up at estate sales today, and also find a place for it because my house is chock-a-block full of inventory. And then I did a few other things like laundry and all, which I don't know if you can tell on camera, but I am sweating. For being 11:30 p.m., it is hot. As a matter of fact, I keep a thermometer in my eBay room, and it is currently 84.6 degrees with 53% humidity. And this is in a room, well, this room gets poor airflow, as I've mentioned a million times, and I'm sure you are tired of hearing me say that. I always talk about how hot it is in here. The rest of the house is fine. Well, my eBay room and the bedroom next to it get poor airflow, so they're both hot. But the rest of the house is comfortable. But I've been moving around, and that's why I'm sweating. But I did check the temperature outside right now. And the temperature outside is 81, and it feels like 90 degrees with the humidity. So technically, my eBay room is hotter than it is outside. And this wall right here is right next to my living room, where it's nice and comfortable, as long as you're not moving around too much. I did check the humidity also, and it is a solid 88% humidity outside right now. So that's the drawback of living in Louisiana in this, I don't know if this is a tropical or subtropical climate, probably a tropical. Enough complaining about my poor sleep schedule and the heat. I've got a busy day tomorrow, which is why I'm here pulling my orders and packing them right now. And I don't think I'm going to have time to pull my orders, get them packed, and get them to the post office before the post office closes. I probably won't get home until maybe 3 o'clock, 3:30 or something like that. So my plan is to pack my orders tonight and load them in my truck in the morning and just drop them off at the post office at some point throughout the day. None of the orders have to be shipped until Wednesday, but I like to get the orders out as soon as possible. So I've got 11 orders going out from the weekend for a total of $147.77. The total is a little bit lower than it probably would normally be because I have a 25% off sale running right now. And I did that because my sales were so slow and so stagnant last week. So while the number is a little bit lower than I would like it to be, I'm definitely not complaining because most of these items have a lot of profit built into them, with the exception of a couple items that, well, I think I'm going to lose money on, but it's because they were personal items that I was never planning on reselling. The first thing that I sold are these Germa Venosan dietary supplement. It's like supports healthy legs. These came from the bin store. They would have been 50 cents or $1. I've had these for a little while, but they sold for $13.33 free shipping. You know, I'm not a big fan of free shipping, but at the time I listed them, every other listing for these had free shipping, so I did do that. At this point, I have very little with free shipping. The next item is a book. It is called Ethics for Behavior Analysts, 4th edition. This sold for $11.35 plus shipping, came from the bin store for either 50 cents or $1. The next item is also a book, The Dissertation Journey, and it sold for $12.11 plus shipping. I picked these up not too long ago. I bought several of them. Comps are definitely higher on this book, but again, I've got 25% off. Not complaining though, because I'm still making money on the book. I don't remember if I paid $1 or $2 for it though. The next item is an Arctic Air Pure Chill cooler with UV light purifier. Now you've probably seen these for the last few years advertised pretty heavily on social media, TV, etc. And the real issue with these things are they market, well, this company, I haven't seen them do it, not the Arctic Air brand, but there have been others that market these as portable air conditioners. Now, these are not an air conditioner by any stretch of the imagination. They are an evaporative cooler. It even says so right here on the box. Basically a swamp cooler. So if you live in a humid climate, these are not going to be near as good as if you live in a dry climate. I was just talking earlier about the humidity here. I bought this for myself just to try it out and see if it will make any difference. And okay, it's definitely not an air conditioner, but if you fill the reservoir here with ice water, it does blow a nice coolness onto you, more than what a fan would do. Is it a replacement for an air conditioner? Not even by any stretch of the imagination. The real issue is that the ice evaporates fairly quickly, and you might get maybe an hour or so of it blowing cool onto you, but that's about all you're going to get. And it does put more humidity into the air. Not a ton, especially when you live somewhere like I live and there's already 50, 60, 80% humidity. But ultimately, it does make a difference in the felt temperature because it is blowing cool air on you. But if you don't have air conditioner and you think one of these are going to work, it's not. But they do help to some degree, especially in drier climates. But I think I paid like $40 for this, and it only sold for $11.74 plus shipping. But I am glad to have it out of my way because I'm not going to use it anymore. And this thing takes up a little bit of real estate on the shelf it was on. The next item is a VW mug. Picked it up at an estate sale. It's kind of like a translucent blue cobalt color. I really don't remember how much I paid for it. And for a while, I was doing really good with putting how much I paid for items in my custom SKU so I could tell you. But I really forget a lot of times to put that in there. Usually I can get pretty close to what I paid. Like this, I wouldn't have paid $3, $4, or $5 for it. I will pay $1 or $2 for it. So I know that's all I paid, but I can't remember exactly. But it sold for $13.07, and I don't have more than $2 into it. Next, I sold a video game, Star Wars Battlefront Deluxe Edition. This belonged either to my son or my stepson. Probably my stepson. He was much more into Star Wars. I know at one point before I even started selling on eBay, when I just started gathering inventory, he gave me a whole bunch of games that they really weren't very valuable. But he's like, here, I don't want these games anymore. You can sell them out. I'd rather give them to you than to GameStop or something trying to trade them in. So I'm sure that's where it came from. I don't think my son was ever into Star Wars. And this sold for $5.19 plus shipping. I sold a child or toddler wrist leash. This sold for $4.32 plus shipping, but it came from the bin store. And it was either 50 cents or in $5 fill a bag. So I don't have much into that. It's been sitting around for a while. So I'm glad to see that finally go. I sold a bottle of ashwagandha gummies, 2,000 milligram. These sold for $9.55 plus shipping. And these came from the bin store for, you guessed it, either 50 cents or $1. I sold some shoes, which, you know, I've said before, I just about can't give shoes away. Even when I buy decent shoes, like Nikes and things, they generally don't sell very well. A while back, I found some Chuck Taylor Converse, some red ones at Goodwill. They sold pretty quick, but by and large, shoes that I try to sell, I just can't sell them. My good ex-wife had given me a pair of brand new On Clouds for women. And they stayed listed for 2 months, and I kept reducing the price on them well below market value. Could not sell those shoes. I ended up giving those back to her and trading her for some other shoes, which did eventually sell, but nonetheless, I have a lot of problem selling shoes. So these sold for $14.79 plus shipping, which I'm guessing they probably sold just because they're on 25% discount right now. And they're in really good shape. I picked these up at a garage sale. I don't remember how much I paid for them. It would have probably been $3, maybe $5. I don't think I would have put $5 into these though, knowing that, you know, I have so much of a problem selling shoes. But I'm guessing probably $3 would have been the most that I would put into these. But they are finally out of here, and another item that was taking up a fair amount of real estate, so I'm glad to see these go. I sold a Magnalite Classics 10-inch aluminum skillet, no lid, and dented, which in big capital letters, I put read description. Even when I took the pictures of it, I tried to focus really close on this section right here, where I don't know what happened to it, but maybe somebody got hit over the head or something, but it's just a little bit out of round right here. I did check this skillet with a lid, and a lid fits on it fine. There's no issues with that. And personally, I wouldn't have any issue with a small dent that didn't affect it in any way. But, you know, a lot of times most buyers are good. A few buyers can be unreasonable. So I really focused on that slight dent so that they would know what they were getting. This skillet came from a garage sale where I bought 2 of them from that garage sale. They were listed at like $5 a piece, and I made an offer to buy both of them for, I don't know, like $8 or something. So I think I've got like $4 into this. These sat for a while in my death pile. I did finally spend the time to get them cleaned up and listed, and this is either the second or third one that sold. I had a total of 3, and I'm not sure if this is the last one or not. It sold for $26.18 plus shipping. The last item that sold is called a Carpan smoke and odor eliminating pan, non-stick grill and frying pan with lid. Now, there's not a whole lot of English on this package. I picked this up at, it's a salvage store called Treasure Hunt in Mississippi, and it was new in the package. I did open it up to take pictures of it. I never used it, but I did buy this for myself because I thought it was kind of interesting. But it sat for 2 years and I never used it. So I listed it for sale. Took a little while to sell. It sold for $26.14 plus shipping. And I want to say I paid about $15 for it. They do have a price tag on here that might be too small to see. It says $89.99, but I didn't pay close to that for it. Typically at these treasure hunt stores, they buy salvage merchandise from, it could be from anywhere. Sometimes it's groceries. I've seen outboard motors in there, mattresses, outdoor grills, toys, clothes, I mean, just you name it. So when you go, you never really know what to expect. When I was still married, we used to go probably once per month. And really how the store works is they will mark things up a little bit above retail, but then they will sell it for either 20, 30, 40, 50, 80% off, just depending on the item. So you have to kind of know what prices are to shop there, because some things you're really not saving that much money. And a lot of the items may be slightly damaged, but stuff that doesn't really affect function. Like there may be a barbecue grill with a small dent in the cover, which is not going to affect it, but you may save 30% off of retail by buying it like that. But they also buy big lots of things, and they had a whole bunch of these today that I went in there. So I picked one up, thought I might use it, never used it, and decided to list it. So it sold another kind of large item that was taking up some room, so I'm glad that it is out of here. I think I'll probably spend the next hour or so packing these orders up. I'm going to try to go to sleep, although that typically does not work out all that well after I've taken a nice long nap in the afternoon. That's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. As always, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.